recorded on. That's okay, I can still grab it from there. Okay, so Simbo, hello. Welcome to day one of the Personalised AI Assistant, 2nd of September. And each day we will be meeting for 1 hour. And today, as I said, it's Labor Day, so we may have people joining us tomorrow. So I'm just going to go on to what we're going to be covering in the challenge. So during this challenge, what we'll be doing is we'll be looking at empowering our leadership, your leadership, learn how AI can enhance your voice, style, and efficiency. We're gonna go into this more as we go through these points, and this challenge is hands-on. So it means that it's interactive. You get a chance to, after each session, I will set a short task, and we'll assess whether that's been done, and you can feed back and say, okay, how did that go? There's something missing, and we can address that as well. So also it's also about where we are in the evolution of AI and where we're going with that. It's also our personal growth. So not only is it helping us with our leadership, it's we're going to have an AI assistant at the end of it, and I go into this a little bit more as we go on. So this is the 4 days. It was initially 5 days. I've shortened it to 4 because of time. I thought people can get more in those few hours. Okay. So do I need prior experience to coming on to this challenge? No, you don't need any experience. This is why I'm putting this together, is because it's for anyone who's new, hasn't really delved into AI. And what if I can't attend all the sessions? So we've got Amy who can't attend. I am going to record them, and they will only be available for our cohort here, or the small group that we have this week. And it's sort of helping me as well with my own training. And will there be recordings? Yes, there will be recordings. How can I prepare for the challenge? Well, there are slides I'll share, and I'll also share other information. And what I found last time was that actually not to be given too much information, but rather I will share as we take the steps. So every time there's something that we do, I'll share that with you, and I can pop it in the chat, or what I can do is I can also put an email. So there'll be a few pieces that it will save you time having to do it. And what tools we're going to be using. For this particular one, we'll be looking at ChatGPT. And I'll sort of say why I feel that would be the one for us to look at as well. And how can I get support during this challenge? Well, any support you want, just feel free to reach out and ask questions with that in mind. Now, before I go into anything, this is kind of at the end of the next 4 days. By Thursday, you will have access. I have access to my own AI tool. So basically, you will have your own AI. You've got access to your AI tool today. Ideally, I've customized my settings. These 2 pointers are the things that we'll be focusing in on more today. And I know the instructions to include to build my own AI system. So once you create one assistant, the magic is you can do that again and again. And I'll show you some examples of how I've used it so you can see this in practice. Because I know that most of us, we like to see examples. It's like, okay, we talk about this stuff, so I'm going to show you what I've done. And you're going to get a chance to test your AI assistant, the one you create in the next few days, and get feedback. And then you're clear on what your next steps are, because after you've done this, what do I do with this? And it's like a tool. Well, it stays redundant. So it's like somebody was saying to me the other day, it's like we get these tools, but no one really shows us how to use them. And until we know what we're able to do with them, we kind of a little bit like going in like, okay, we're testing things out. So this is going to shortcut that. And my sense is a lot of people won't even use this because they won't know that it exists, so they'll be missing out. So it's kind of a really key thing. So the session overview, we're going to go through what are LLMs, like what's all this about LLMs, and I'll go through this acronym, and we'll customize our settings so that it understands who you are. And so for Amy, when she comes on, I'm going to be asking her to do the same thing. So it understands when you go into your GPT, it knows that your voice, that your style, and how you want it to converse with you. And we'll test the customization as well. We'll test to see if that's working. And we'll move on to looking at how do we identify our voice. When there's so much noise with AI, it can get a little bit lost with where's my voice in this, and am I gonna like and this is the powerful thing about why I started doing this challenge. So by the end of this session, you have the initial steps in customizing the GPT. Ideally, you've done this kind of by today, but we'll go into that as well by tomorrow. But you will have the steps, and when you see what you can do, I promise it won't take long. It's quite it's quite quick as well once you know this as well. Now, before I go on, Simbo, is there anything that you're wanting to get out of this first session, or just overall?
No, it's just overall,
Yeah.
AI is something that is no longer new, but it's still very much up in the air with what you could do with it, how you could get it done. And so I just want to learn more about how I can use it to my own advantage, as well, and how I can use it, whether be it with my students and or maybe with colleagues, or I just want to see the scope.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And this is the thing. So it's getting it's for you, it's sort of understanding what this is in a way, but where do I go? Like what the bigger kind of picture of this as well, so that it can be applied. And it's a great point that you raise about, because students are using it and people are using it. And there is this thing at the moment of, well, are we using it or we're not? But you'll see when I go through some of the other slides later on that it's used quite extensively now. We're seeing this much more with Microsoft Pilot, for example. We're seeing, Google Gemini, and it's popping up a lot now. We're seeing it. So me, we've met, and so I've left this in there. Like I got involved with the AI world working with a programmer in Toronto, and I've been working with him closely now. And so we have a small group, and it's hands-on. And what has opened my mind up to kind of how we explore this, and so with kind of where I am with my coaching, and also I'm wanting to support leaders who may not sort of necessarily take that kind of like step into tech, or it's about bridging the gap. So for me, I'm having spent the last 2 years, or certainly the last sort of like 9 months now, working weekly, like 2-3 hours going through this stuff. I see the power in this, and it would only be selfish of me not to share it. So I'm like, okay. So and this is where some of those gaps are. We certainly see that with a lot of leaders wanting to kind of enhance their leadership. So that's what I'm about, kind of empowering people to use these tools and help them as much as I possibly can. Okay, so definition. So artificial intelligence, it's looking at capabilities that perform, we look at these machines, machine learning, and so machines are able to perform what human intelligence are able to do, like learning, problem solving, reasoning, as we'll see a little bit more of that. And there's so much vastness that, what can be achieved. We've seen lots of examples previously, clunky examples, but definitely examples like Siri and Alexa, where we've been able to use them in everyday tasks. So we've seen those as well. Perhaps you've even like had access, like used Siri previously. Now, in the role, how's AI's role in leadership and also business? It really is about improves our business efficiency and makes us more profitable. That means that I mean, whether we're in, because at the end of the bottom line is institutes, companies, they're going to be looking at how we're performing and how we're generating, how we're automating tasks that provide data. So that's the great thing about it, because we can get a lot of data from doing these and from what we're performing, but also then we got this live feedback as well. So one is that if we're doing things regularly, we can automate that, and we can like have data-driven insights, like how did we perform? What were the stats on that? If we want to go that avenue, but certainly with everyday tasks. And what we're looking at today is more kind of those everyday tasks, although I do kind of later on talk about this at another program where I'll go into data. So human integration. Now, there's this big thing at the moment. Well, with AI, it's going to replace humans. Well, it won't replace us, but what it will do is AI, if we're looking at how we can complement these activities, human activities. And so for McKinsey, he says, look, AI should complement human activities, helping to build trust with stakeholders and supporting more informed decision making. So by no means will it just replace us, but it's like, how do we use them and in that way to kind of amplify what we're already doing to a different level? And this is kind of the power in it. So definition, generative AI, this is the thing that people are talking about now a lot more, since certainly ChatGPT, where, back in January of 2023, where, it was out sort of December, late November, but we kind of heard more about it in January, February, and most people kind of were logging on. It's one of the ones that took off. It took off kind of immensely. If you may remember the date, like everyone was going ChatGPT, and so what is that? It's a generative. That means it allows us to create content and images. Generative AI. That's kind of what it does, right? Images, videos from existing data. And so it goes into what we call this latent space, and depending on how we prompt it, it's able to create, if you like, generate text or videos, and there's so much more that we can obviously do as well with this. So the prompting I will mention a little bit, because that's where depending on how we prompt it, we will get I've seen examples where people have prompt and how they've inputted into GPT or into other LLMs, the outputs differ hugely because of the way we prompted it. So it's really, that kind of becomes the magic kind of piece as well. But so that's generative AI. So in a bigger kind of picture, I took this from an article where, just to kind of give you an overview, where artificial intelligence, where we're looking at science, we're looking at machines and all this AI, human behavior. Then we've got the machine learning, and we're seeing a lot more of this as well. We've got the deep learning, and I can share this article with you if that's something of interest. And what we're looking at really in the scope of where we are this week is the branch of generative AI, which is the deep learning branch, which I'm just going to move us out the way so I can read this. Branch of deep learning that uses exceptional large neural network. So it's got this vast data, and it's huge. I mean, so it's what LLMs refer to are the large language models. And so they have billions of neurons. So the capabilities are massive in terms of abstract patterns. So if we think of patterns, it kind of goes in that way, language models, creating videos and, images as well. So before I move on, let me just ask Isimba, what have you used? Have you, first and foremost, have you used ChatGPT?
Yeah, I have used ChatGPT. I think that's the only LLM I have used. Well, I've heard of a few other ones, but yes, I've used ChatGPT and I've used it very loosely. Yeah.
Okay, so ChatGPT and others you said you've heard about but not really gone into as into those as well. So um there are so many, I mean, there are so many now, like thousands of these LLMs. Um, and so what I would say is that, and that's what I've been doing, part of my training is, well, we've got all these different LLMs, and how do we decide which one to use? And the one we'll be using here will be the Chat GPT, and I'll say why, because they're going to be supported. We know that if we're using things like Microsoft Pilot or using Gemini, Google Gemini, for example, you know, we know that these bigger players out there will get that kind of support. Whereas if we're using other companies, some have come and gone already, which is huge, right? Because they haven't survived. Because I mean, we're going to see. We've got at the moment we've got Chat GPT minis as well, and it won't be long before we have Chat GPT 5. So and if I can go into what the differences are in terms of what that's like tomorrow a little bit. Like why would you might have like Chat GPT 3 or 4 and minis? It's so it's kind of making it mobile. It's easy to kind of access as well, and you don't have to use as much of what they call funds, which are called tokens. Tokens are the kind of money that sits kind of if you've got the GPT, and I'll check. Have you got the free version, Simbo? Have you got the paid version?
It's the free version.
You've got the free version. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we might need to do is we can double check for creating our assistant. We're going to want to have the $20 version, and I'll show you what we can do with that. But I'll show you how to go through that, because that's where um, you can have your own assistants basically, and I can show you like okay, yeah.
When you say the $20 version, is it $20 a month, a week, or a year?
Yeah, good question. It's a monthly subscription for it as well for this. And I'll show you there are other tools, and I've stuck to initially I paid for a lot of the tools beforehand. And then I discovered that actually what I found was I'm paying out for all these like different LLMs. And now what I've learned is that if I want to use a model, the best thing to do is stick to one. And I know it's going to be the one I'm going to use. And what I would also then do is if I'm using any other models like Claude.ai, which is excellent for writing, then I tend to use that, but then it uses up my capacity for a day. It uses it really quickly. So then I go back to I just continue with this because I know that I'm using it a lot. And so and you'll see why I'm using it in a moment. Like you'll get to see kind of like the kind of like the capacity and what it's able to do. Um, 3 will give you 3 point, yeah, 4. Yeah, it still give you a lot, but it the stuff that you're going to be wanting to do in terms of the prompting and the reasoning that's we're able to do with the paid version is the capabilities are lots higher, and you'll see that yeah, there's much more you can do as well. You can create images, you can go into creating images as well, and tables and so forth. So okay, so let's go in, and so there's a lot of text there. So the bigger kind of AI models like Gemini, and you've got OpenAI and Claude. I mean, we're going to see these. We're going to see massive growth in how they're using, you know, like the AI. Certainly, Google. I know that, they felt, that maybe they were a little bit slow because of like how, you know, certainly ChatGPT took off, but they will continue. They will be the bigger kind of players. What we're going to do is I'm going to go through setting up stage of customization. And so what I'll do in a moment is I'll share my screen and I'll go through some of the things that before we do anything. And if you log into the free version, I wonder if you're able to do this in the free version, but we'll check. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through customization. You can see this version is blank, okay? And then the next version is getting us to think about some sort of starters. Now, before I do anything here, okay, you're probably wondering, well, what do I mean about customization? So I'm going to go through that because that's the bit where it's almost like you get to see my screen and you'll see what I'm referring to. And then I'm going to just go through a couple of pointers and also give you some things that might help, because you might be using it, you might be using it for work. From what I'm hearing, you're going to use it for work, right? Or you're going to use it for your business. Let me just double check. And I'll just stop sharing for a moment. Some both.
Yeah, I'll be using it for my business, but then I would see how that would translate to me using it at work. I want to get to understand how to use it properly,
Yeah.
for things that are outside work.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So let's do that. And there are things that we can do as well if you once are used, because it's got this amazing memory, and
Sorry?
it has a memory that it starts knowing how we're behaving with it.
Yeah.
And so, but there are things we can do instantly for it to understand us, like our voice, understand the type of leader we are. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share what I've been doing with it, and so you can see how you'll be able to use it as well. So you're gonna see here now when I'll put it on large screen so you're able to see. When we go into on the right hand side, I don't know if you can see, so okay, so if we go on the right hand side, and there's a little, um, there's my face there, right? And and so it's going to show. So the plan I've got at the moment is this one as well. It's got the plus. So it's giving me it's giving me access to the latest features. It's giving me access to for the mini, and so I've got the advanced analysis and so forth. I can create images and I can create my own customized GPTs as well. Okay, now, and of course I've kept it as a personal plan. And there are ways that you can have the business and you can share, but I've just kept it as that. And when we go in, if I go back here, now we've got this thing called customizing GPT, chat GPT. What we want to do is once we've gone on here, and what I've done is I've written some text to reflect who I am. Now, this is the piece that a lot of people miss when they are setting this up, because they're using the chat but not doing this bit. And by actually incorporating who you are, you can add the text as is, right? You've got 1,500 words. So what I just simply did was I said who I am, and I work with those unlocking potential, empowering professionals, leverage strengths, grow effectively, specializing in guiding mid-level female leaders, providing coaching programs. Now, I noticed that sometimes there's British English and, like American English, but that's okay because the model understands that, yeah, that's me, right? And so I don't worry too much about that. But yeah, so it's got my philosophy, it's got my work-life balance. You can say a little bit about your hobbies if you like. So as much information that you want. Now, you might have some information already, and you could even ask GPT to help you write your custom instructions based on you. So, in other words, you've got a text, and you can say, right, this is 2,000 words, condense it down. This is my philosophy, and you can obviously, once we go through something like that, you can certainly do that. Now, this is the bit that you obviously will complete for yourself. Now, and you'll probably, so if you're using it for your business, then put that in. If you're using it for work, then you can add that in. Now, if you don't want to use it if you want to use it for work, but you don't want the customization popping up, you can disable it here. So you can turn off the green, and then that will disable it, so it won't pick up your business kind of component, like you being at work if you decide to do that. So I would always go with like understanding what you're going to be using it for, and then say, okay, I'm going to use it for this, and then it knows my voice and it knows who I am. You could leave it and not do anything, but I found that when I do that, it does something it understands me in conversations. What I found, and I might most likely going to add a little bit to this for tomorrow. So I'm going to add a little bit more to this to make it even more robust. But what I've asked this to do is I've asked ChatGPT, how would I like ChatGPT to respond? Now, I don't want it just to go into latent space and give me any response. Now, if it does that, it doesn't help me. But what I do want, I want it to provide me with reasoning. So one of the most powerful things I found, and I'm going to copy and I'll give you this, is I found this monologue kind of steps and tags before responding. So it's speaking back, almost like asking me. I like that monologue approach because that's where I found it really helpful. And the other thing is I want the responses direct and to the point. I don't need over elaboration. I need it kind of succinct. And we can even say that. So we can add this, and once you feel complete yours, you can say be succinct, clear. And there's a bit of programming language it understands, and it's like having your own voice. So we want it to we want our voice. So we want it to max my perplexity and firstness. So what that means, we want it to sound energetic, as human-like as possible. So when we're not doing that, we're getting lots of these, and this is where people are getting very ChatGPT responses because they're not like doing this. This is where the bit that gets missed. And so it doesn't sound like us, it sounds robotic, it sounds like the language of like it'll say things like navigation, or like this terminology, ChatGPT's terminology that you will see even in students' messages. You'll see like, okay, why is somebody writing like that? Most likely they've used it and they've not checked it, or they've not had their own voice. So the power in doing this means that it's using more of how we sound. And we're going to do a little bit more than this, of course, but this is kind of just the starting. and I self-reference, and you can also always say, I don't need any reference to AI or any self-identification. I don't need that. Just, I just clarity. Also, ask if you need help reasoning. This is so powerful. It's like having an intern, because it's like, how many times do you give someone something to do, but they never ask? So we never know, and we end up getting the wrong thing. But with this, we can ask it. If you don't understand, I need you to ask me before you produce any outcomes. So, or give me the thinking behind what you're producing. It's so powerful. This is where it becomes like you having this like other person. It's not really, but you're getting this other dialogue with Chat GPT, which we don't that we're not utilizing otherwise. When interacting with my Chat GPT assistant, expect responses that are aligned and are insightfully helpful and aligned. So I'm going to add a little bit more to this tomorrow, and I'm going to put a little few tweaks in this and make it a little bit even more robust than this. But this is a starting point, at least. So I'm going to give you this text, and you can use this and test it out when you work on yours. And it just makes it easier in the way it responds and you'll see the difference. Maybe what you can do is, even before you do that, you can do something beforehand. You can test it now before you do it. And then once you've done it, you can test it afterwards, and you can sort of see the response that you're going to get from that, which I'm gonna so I'm just gonna stop. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop that in the chat, and then I will send it in an email as well, because I feel that's the bit that made a difference. So it's not too big, so I can put it in there. It's text based, and you can. So that's the bit, like what I've added in the second bit. If you when you're thinking about how you want to use it, because it's going to get you thinking about how you're going to be wanting to use it. And so there'll be lots of thoughts, I'm sure, once you're kind of thinking, oh, that's good, because then I can use it in this way, possibly for my business. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a moment before I continue and get some sort of questions before I carry on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good to, that you went through the customization. However, I'm not sure. I know you want us, or, it might be better with the $20 version. But do
Yeah.
you know whether the customization is also available on the free version?
I don't think it is, but we can test
Okay.
it. I don't think it is, actually. I feel, because it did specifically say you can customize your GPTs, and I'm going to show you how I use those. And I don't think it is, because
Okay.
it isn't. But you've got GPT though, haven't you? You've got it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can log in now and see whether or not I can do any customization. But I think what I'm also not clear about is the
Yeah.
monologue that you were talking about.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
it that you're speaking to yourself about yourself, or, how does that work?
Okay. I'll show you that in demo. I'll show you how that's done. So let me come out of this, and I'll share. Um, let me show you how let's see. Um, let's do it with this. Okay, let's start with the new chat, and I'll share as well in a moment. Um, oh, okay, I didn't do it that way then. Let me just show you what I'm doing. So when I go into the GPT here, And so when I go into this, so I'm going to show you like, so on the right hand side are all my assistants, right? So and these are private, by the way. And there's only one I think I've made publicly available, but these are all private for my space. So this becomes like my working GPT environment, right? And so, for example, if I just went into this particular one, oh yeah, let's do this one because this is part of like the AI. This is what we're working on. So this is Bally Biz AI assistant, right? And so I built this specifically kind of for training. And I said, who are you? So if I, let's see if it does the monologue. It might give me the monologue here. Oh, it's not saying that. But what it's doing is it's instantly picking up, and I'll do it as a different conversation in a moment and see, because it will give me a monologue. It will, so when so it's doing this in this customized AI. Hi there, I'm Bally, your dedicated AI assistant and writer, designed to empower and guide you through journey personal and professional growth, inspired by core values of Bally Binning and Leaderize. My role is to help you achieve balance, fulfillment, excellence, etc. So that's basically my assistant talking to me. So that's the kind of monologue I was referring to in that sense.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what and we'll do this as we go through, is I've instructed these assistants to speak to me in this way, and then they're able to answer and create emails and things like that. Now, I've also done it for other different tools as well. Like I've got this 4 here, like F and Qs, this one as well, like frequently asked questions. Again, this one is a private one, which I can share with anyone that's asking any questions about what I do. I've just uploaded 75 questions into this. And then anyone wanting any answers, they go into that and they can get the answer instantly. I never have to kind of repeat anything because it's already there. So it saves me so much time. If someone says, oh, what, like, where do I go? So I would say it's a little bit like my helper, like in every kind of area. And we'll go into this a little bit more as we go through what that means, like how we set this up and how we create it and how we input information to make it kind of sound more like us rather than like very generic, in that sense. So if I was to do just a kind of a quick chat, and like obviously we have these, I tend not to use this so much, but if I was to say, like, let me just ask it a question. Can you write, can you write, do this one, an email to confirm today's appointment. Right? So just even if I say today's, let's say appointment, right? Right. So it's hopefully it just kind of like, so this is what it does. Right. So what it's already done, it's picked up this monologue, the bit we've inputted, and that was what I was wanting to show you, because it's got the monologue, it's got the email should be concise and professional, confirming the details of the appointment to ensure clarity, avoid any misunderstandings. It should include the time, the date, location, a virtual meeting of the appointment. Additionally, apply a friendly tone to help maintain a good rapport. Because I've inputted that into my customization, it understands that's how I want it to like respond. Otherwise, I'm going to get something so generic. And what you'll see here, it's left out the bits that it needs me to write in. So I no longer have to spend ages writing this. I didn't even know what I was asking it then, right? So it wasn't much thought like from my end. But if it's given me all this, I've already got what I need, which is really powerful because we would spend ages doing this. And this is where the power comes in, is once we've done this bit of the customization and the professional friendly tone as well. And of course, we would proofread that. And it's like having your own system writing that, but or you're doing it yourself. And these you could turn out really quickly. You could even get it to add your name at the end, where I've got it to say include my name. And it does that. Okay, so it will include my name, and it will do that as well. Okay, so that's it. It's kind of knows who I am. And if I've inputted my details there, it will know. So it's so quick that it saves time there. And like you can see how quickly that did. I didn't even call on my assistants here because I'm not evoking them.
Yeah, this is my question, that ideally, I mean, or not ideally, normally when you go to ChatGPT, you could ask to create an appointment like you've done.
Yeah.
But at what point does it link with your assistant? Because I can just go onto ChatGPT. It goes,
Yeah.
like you said, into the latent space, or and it will just generate that appointment letter anyway.
Yes.
So how does it link with the
With the assistant. So what?
assistant?
Yeah. So the difference with this is, so if you were doing this, and tell you the truth, it might be enough just to use ChatGPT 3 because
Okay.
it's not requiring too much reasoning. Now, if I want to draw on my assistants, then I will just draw on my assistants through pinning, and it should just show it to me, but it's not. But normally, if I just do this, so if I go, it's got my assistants there. So depending on how many assistants I've included, I can evoke them in conversation. So I could evoke this one. And for example, if I want my voice, I can say, write in this style. Okay. So I can actually get it to write in this style. Okay.
Mm.
So it could do it that way, because it knows my voice and it's got the ending there as well. So I can do it that way. I could also, so we'll be looking at why we're going to be creating these assistants. Why would we want to do that? Because if we're creating a newsletter, it's going to be a different style. If we're creating an email, it's going to be a different style. I've created different ones for presentations. I've created ones, these are the ones I'm working on as well. And a newsletter writing analysis I've worked on recently, which analyzes the format and structure and creates kind of an analysis of that style. So I don't kind of mix up everything in one. So I can kind of evoke it. So if I want to evoke another assistant, so it's like having a team of people, and you could even have different hats. Like, and I find that quite interesting. I don't know if you like, in the coaching area, we have something called the 6 hats. You could have someone who maybe has the creative hat, or someone who comes in with the black hat, who is, thinking about finance. And you can like imagine evoking those in that meeting. It's like speaking to different people. So it's like different perspectives, but that's obviously different voices. But if you want to have your own voice, that would be slightly different. So yeah, in that email, we're only using a very simple ChatGPT 3.5, but in more of a reasoning, then we need the kind of higher version of like, and I can show examples of how that might look as well. Now we want to find out your voice now. So this is understanding your voice. If you want to take it from a perspective of your business, then we want to know what that looks like. So there are a few ways we can understand that, because the AI biz bot, which I call the business assistant, has everything about kind of what I do. So I created this knowledge base. And so I just want to have an open conversation so you get the most out of like these next few days, what that might look like for you.
I'm just looking at I was asking that previous question because my so-called one of my business ideas and my work are not necessarily congruent in a way. And for me to get the best out of this, I was just thinking maybe I could look at something different. Because one part of my business idea that I'm looking at is very creative and so on. But I work in a sector which is more intellectual. And I'm not saying creativity and being intellectual don't work together. So this is what do I need my creative voice to come through, or do I need the intellectual voice?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So that's where the dilemma is.
yeah, 100%.
So,
So what you could still do is you could still customize it based on you, like who you are, your values, your professionalism, and all that's going to come through in your voice. And then this challenge, you could focus on one assistant. And then once you know how to create that assistant, you can create another one for the
okay.
work so that
All
you
right.
can,
So you could have multiple assistants.
yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, you can actually, that's where the magic is. You can create knowledge for those specific assistants that don't overlap. So when you evoke them, you evoke that. Like if I'm evoking a copywriter, I'll evoke that assistant. So we can keep them separate. That's what makes it really powerful, because like I've had people who've got different clients that they serve, and so they want to keep those clients in separate like entities almost, like rather than have them all in, because we don't work like that anyway, do we? We have different ways. So yeah, 100%. And it will make it, what's really powerful, it will make it really concise because it gets us thinking. And that's what we're going to do, is like how we're going to feed the instructions in the customization so that it understands us and where the knowledge is. And I'll go in through what that knowledge will look like and how we update and upload that knowledge so we can evoke that knowledge in any conversation in the GPT environment.
So you said you were going to show.
Yeah. So what that will look like, for example, if we go into this, beg your pardon, let me just stop that. That's not where I wanted to go. I want to go into our GPT again. And so I can show you what I mean by that. So when we go in, I suppose the number one thing for us to do now is to do the customization, of course, right? And then what we're going to be wanting to do is we want to, so you may not see in the 3 version, you might look slightly different. I can't remember, but we would come in here and we can even change, we can change this to, have the lesser version if we want. so if we had the minis, it doesn't have support attachments, that type of thing. And we could have got the legacy model. But so at the moment in your conversations, you probably got a lot of these threads, these different conversations, and I tend to delete them because it gets too much, right? So it gets like, okay, it's quite detailed. So so what I just did was like, you've obviously got all these GPTs, right? So the way these ones work, these have been made available through this, but I've not made mine available in this space at all. So it was only private. So when we create this, it becomes something private for us to use in our work environment. I don't necessarily need anyone else to be looking at it. And so so there are a lot of, we can get, like, we could start looking at all these, because when first GPT came out, I think there were only about 4 or 5. I remember, must have been really early on. There were hardly any like these GPTs. There's hundreds of them, but it's all very well having lots of these GPTs, but no one's going to know my work better than I do. And I think this is where the power is in using AI, because our knowledge base is our knowledge base. And that's where we want to evoke it. So what I've done is I created these. And so, so for example, in this system, for example, what I then went and did was, I'll show you this a bit more in detail tomorrow, and I can review it. Okay. And so it's, no, I don't want to review, beg your pardon. I want to edit it. So if I want to edit my GPT, what it looks like is, and welcome back. Is there anything you would like to, assistant should be doing anything else? For example, if I want it to change now, and I might say, yeah, I want to update it. So it's live. It's showing me it's live at the moment, right? So if I go in here, and if I go in, let me just see where I need to go in here. And it's changed slightly the feel of it. And then I might see if I can go into the create version here. Okay. So I want to click on the configure. So what I've done, so this is something you might start looking at, is I've uploaded my own private files in here. And so by doing that, that means that I've got these, and I can have up to about 20 files in here, and they could be transcript. I might organize, don't necessarily need to be in particular form. I use PDF, but if you've got any transcripts or anything you've used, voice notes, then you might put them in a text, because it's looking at the LLM, because it's looking at the text, if you like. And then I've created this Bally Biz brand voice PDF. And so, and I've got ideal client and brand star guide. And so by having that knowledge, and then I've got these conversation starters, as like how I want it to do that. It then uses this knowledge here. Okay. And I can explicitly say to it, just draw on this. Don't look anywhere else. Just draw on this. If it's not there, then ask me before you move on, because what it will do is it will just try to fill those gaps, and it will just scrape the web for that information. I don't want it to do that. So this is where the bit that we would be doing is uploading those documents in our system to configure and create it, as and we can add some links and so forth. But this is kind of what I would do. Now, the question, I suppose, is, do you have something like that, and where are you at the moment with that?
No, I don't have anything. My relationship with ChatGPT was just to find out what students are doing and how it works. So I can just get my head around, the workings. So I haven't really used it in depth, like, what you're doing. And I can see the value in actually doing that and getting it customized. But I haven't actually done anything like that.
Yeah, and not a lot of people have. I mean, there's probably like I think most people they wouldn't have done it unless they've kind of like been taught or they've gone through it or they've tested it. They wouldn't have done it because it's like they're using the capabilities like when you put in a microwave and you just put like one setting and that's it.
Yeah.
But they won't be using the other stuff because it's like unless they've been shown to do it, it's not like but what if once you're creating a document, we can go into this a little bit more tomorrow, is if we've got like if I don't know my brand or I don't know who I am, where do I begin? Like that was one of the questions that came up. Like, what is my voice? How do I know what my voice is? What's my brand? And all these questions. And so that can in itself it opens up more doors. Like, okay, now before I even start doing that, I have to know what my voice is. But we can actually get ChatGPT to show us what our voice is if in the creative space.
One question. Thank you very much, Bally. This has been thought-provoking. Yeah. One of the things I was actually thinking is this assistant is only available for me to see, or is it shared in that space, that's ChatGPT space?
If you want to share it, you can. And I will share my assistant. So you would need to be in that chat to view it and access it. You would be in that space. So you can share the GPT with other people who've got GPT, are on Chat GPT and the OpenAI platform. When I say that, I mean the Chat GPT platform. Then yes, they can open it and you can share it because yes, I've put it on my LinkedIn profile, for example, or I've added it and I've shared it with, like, look, this is the assistant I've got.
Mm.
So you can make it available to those individuals with only the link who's got your link.
Yeah.
If it's private, of course, it will be open and it will sit there. Maybe people won't look at it necessarily, but yeah, you can definitely share it. If you decide that's the route and you want to give it to your assistant, for example, you want to give your assistant to an assistant to work with, they've got all that knowledge there, they've got it, which can be really powerful, I feel, because then you've gone through it once and then you don't have to keep telling them this and that or go into that file, go into page, any of that. You just got things like information you may have, like handbooks. It can tell you exactly the date, like things are in the handbook, what page, like when's semester ending. Well, instead of kind of checking, it will just pick up and give it to you within seconds, which is powerful.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm gonna just to kind of before we finish and wrap up, just to kind of say, have a think about how that customization process following this conversation. You've seen what I did. I'm happy to kind of share what I did in mine because I also like to see examples personally, and then I just amend those. It's like, yes, okay, you've got to create your own, not necessarily because the instructions don't vary. That's one thing I found with GPTs. Text, you've seen an example already, which you can insert into yours and amend slightly, which you can do. And then so today, what we need to have had is a customization. If we can have those steps, then it will be it's well worth those $20. Believe me, it's definitely worth it because I've got so much out of it. It's there's so many different tools. If we stick to one, we know we're going to be supported with that and we don't need to jump. Of course we can use them, but we don't have to pay for anything else. So we want to cut back on cost there as well. So thank you, Simbo. That's been amazing. I hope that this has been helpful. And like I said, I will definitely share this with you.
Thank you so much, Bally. Yeah, I look forward to going through the recording again. And yeah, I got a few new things from from our discussion from this session. And I look forward to tomorrow's session.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Yes. And you've got any questions or as you're going through this, like what that first assistant. So as a takeaway for today would be, what would I want my assistant to do? You saw like a couple of examples, not many there. If I could have it my way, what would that number one assistant do that would save me time and I can automate it? What's that number one thing? There might be a good thing, a good to have thing later, but that one to like that's gonna really change and make things easy for you in the next few weeks. Let's work on that one. So that's going to be my final thought for today.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See
Brilliant.
you then.
Okay. Bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.